live on the air. I'm Richard Saile.
This is wild.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Loungetime. I'm your host, Rich Saile, and today we have the NFL playoff bracket finally set in stone. 14 teams alive for a chance to win the Super Bowl, but only 2 will make it there. 1 will win it, and almost half the field will be out by next weekend. Crazy to think. Plus, we've got the college football playoff semifinal predictions and picks. I will go over both of those games, a brief preview, and then I will give you guys an update on the future schedule at the end of today's show. But this is how it's going to go today. I'm going to give my picks Friday night after Indiana, Oregon. I realize it's a 7:30 kickoff, so it's not bad, but it's going to end late. So, Loungetime will be going out late Saturday morning at the latest. I'm going to film my playoff preview for the NFL following Indiana, Oregon, because I do want to talk a little bit about both semifinal matchups, and then I want to get into the picks for wildcard weekend. That way, we have it covered. So, Friday's show, what I might do is I might record the NFL playoff picks ahead of time, and then I'm really going to lead in with the playoff semifinal for college football. That way, we cover both of them, preview the national championship, and the episode will be out at worst Saturday midnight, and you guys will have it all in time leading into the playoffs. That's ideally the early breakdown, unless I get a guest that wants to come in studio at the very, very last possible minute, which is unlikely right now, but we're working on some deals right now to see if I can get some of my friends to come on and talk regarding the NFL playoffs. But without further ado, let's start with the NFL playoff bracket that was officially set after all the Week 18 games concluded this weekend. And I want to give my thoughts basically on all the teams left in the field, because what I love about this show is now that you're out, I don't care. And I know there's a lot of coaching news going on. It's also Black Monday, as we call it in the NFL world, because teams that don't make the playoffs, some decide to move on from head coaches, general managers, and some that are looking for head coaches and general managers go through interviews, but we don't worry about that for a long while, okay? Unless it's a big one, which, spoiler alert, the Raiders have let go of Pete Carroll, which was the biggest coaching name among, successful coaches to be let go at the moment. And then there's a couple of other ones like Kevin Stefanski, Jonathan Gannon's gone. Raheem Morris got fired last night. So those are some early coaching news that are gone. So, again, I don't want to spend too much time, because this is the playoff bracket episode where I give my thoughts on everybody left in the field. Everybody left in the field. How do I want to do this? Well, I'm not going to go crazy into stats until Friday, where I might have a couple stats for the predictions and the picks. I will say this to you guys. I have a few picks early put together. I just want to fully pick the bracket itself on Friday. That way, you guys have all the playoff picks at your disposal from me. That way, you know who I pick. And if you want to grade how well I do in the playoff predictions, that's up to you. I don't really care and follow track, although it's easier to do in the playoffs than it is for so many games in the regular season. That's why I'm just like, if you do it in the regular season, salutes to you as far as crunching the numbers. And I couldn't even tell you what my record was for picking games in the regular season. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the bye teams first, because I have opposite viewpoints on both of the bye teams. I'm going to start with Seattle, which I did watch on Saturday night, which I'm not going to lie. I have mostly good thoughts on Seattle right now as we approach the playoffs now. The key to Seattle for me is this. Their defense shut down a really hot 49er offense, a quarterback that I have said the last 2 weeks has been playing with the most confidence and swagger that he has played since being the starter with the Niners, and that's Brock Purdy. Okay? They did not give the Niners a chance to run the ball well at all. McCaffrey probably had his worst rushing game in quite a long time. They could not get the running game going, so their run defense, elite. Their defense in general, elite. My only question with Seattle is Sam Darnold in the biggest games on the biggest stage, because his track record does not bode well. Now, I know what people are saying. Well, Richie did win the division title against the Niners in San Francisco. That should matter compared to what he was last year. That is part of the equation. That is part of the equation. He's got to do it now in the playoffs. Because the last time we saw Sam Darnold in the playoffs, he did not look good at all. He got absolutely no time in the pocket. Granted, the Vikings line was awful too. He made mistakes after mistakes. And the one worry I have with Seattle is this. Can Sam Darnold, over the course of a 3-game stretch, play clean football to where he doesn't force mistakes? Meaning, he's just got to make the smart decisions. Don't force the ball into very, very tough windows. Don't force turnovers. If he plays clean for 3 games, Seattle's got a great shot to represent the NFC. That's what I think needs to happen. He's got everything in front of him. He's got a great young head coach that is playing, that has got a really good defense going. And if you remember Mike McDonald, he had the really good Ravens defense 2 years ago, and they were really awesome in the playoffs 2 years ago. This Seattle defense is playing up to that standard, maybe not better than that Ravens defense was in 23. So he's got the defense. He's got a good 1-2 punch in the running game with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. He's got receivers. Jackson Smith-Njigba is probably going to be a first-team All-Pro receiver. He's got guys like Rashid Shaheed who can be a deep threat, who can also be a punt return ace, which special teams, great to find a way to win a close game. And sometimes it comes down to that phase of the game. He's got Cooper Kupp, an experienced veteran who's won a Super Bowl MVP. So it's not like Sam Darnold doesn't have anything. He's got everything around him. The question is, can he play a full clean game for 3 games in a row? He's got to be very, very smart in his decision making. He can't be the one that costs you the game. That's it. He can't be the guy. And I know what teams are going to do. Teams are going to try to pressure Darnold. Teams are going to try to force him into making mistakes. Seattle's got to find a way now to where if Sam's having an awful game, that's how I think you could beat Seattle. Seattle's got to figure out, okay, if Sam's having a horrible game, the defense is top-notch. They can win games. The running game, can they win you a game running the ball 30, 35 times, maybe 40, especially if it's bad weather in Seattle? That's what I'm worried about. Their offensive line has been better. Can they keep Darnold clean? Can they open up lanes in the running game? That is the key for Seattle to me to make a really good chance to win the Super Bowl. That's my one question mark. Can Sam Darnold play clean for 3 games in a row? He did a good job. That's a good start with the Niners. But we also know his playoff history. So I don't want to get too invested with Seattle as far as a team that I think is going to win or represent the NFC yet. I haven't made my pick yet. I'm just saying when I'm looking at everybody left in the field, I'm outlining pros and I'm outlining cons. Seattle's got everything going well. They're a great team on the road, but now they got home field advantage. And that's one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. They got a running game. They got a defense. They've got a good offensive line. The key is Sam Darnold playing clean for 3 games in a row. I want to see if he can do it. If he can do it, Seattle's got a great shot to represent the NFC. And to me, that's ultimately what is going to come down to their chances of preserving home field advantage and getting to Santa Clara. Now, to Denver. This is the opposite of what I feel about Seattle right now, okay? Where they are similar is their defenses are both really good. Denver's defense, really good. Altitude, their home field advantage, it's going to be a tough place to play. Whether it's no weather or it snows, altitude is literally their biggest strength right now. And their defense, their pass rush is disgustingly good. I mean, Benito, you've got Surtain on the back end. I mean, they're loaded on defense. They are. And I think Denver, Zach Allen in the middle, they're going to be tough out defensively. I mean, if you can find a way to control the game with their defense, that might be your only prayer in a chancing thing to beat Denver. But why am I hesitant? Have you watched Denver's offense the last 7 games or so in the season? I have. I'm not there. And I know Sean Payton is a great offensive mind. I have no doubt he's taking his bye week to look at what offensive struggles Denver's got right now. But I don't know, man. The more the eye test watches Denver, the more I'm saying, I don't see it. I think, honestly, to me, when I look at Denver, their offense is what their Achilles heel is. I think if their offense is slumping like they are now, they're in danger of being one and done in the playoffs. And I know people are going to say, well, Bo Nix is winning games, Rich. It's when he doesn't win games is when I start to worry. And I know they're winning games now. They lost to Jacksonville in Mile High, so it's not impossible to beat Denver. Look at what Jacksonville did 3 weeks ago. They ended up winning in Mile High, and it was one of the big upsets for them that's preserved them on a really hot winning streak. And I think, to me, when I look at Denver, Bo Nix is going to have to make plays. And he makes plays in the fourth quarter. But to me, you're going to have to get off to a fast early start. You're going to have to be able to get plays that can consistently move the chains. You might even have to hit a big play. Can they do that over the course of 4 quarters? And I'm not talking just the fourth quarter when it's time to make throws. No. I'm talking throughout the course of a game. Because if you can't, the way the AFC bracket looks for Denver right now, there's a real good shot they play Buffalo their first game off the bye. And that's one team, I'm telling you right now, I don't think they want to see. And I think when I look at Denver, their defense is ferociously good. Their secondary, Surtain, is really good. Riley Moss is not a bad number 2 corner. Okay, Vance Joseph's doing a damn good job with the defense. Their offensive line, it's been good. It's not been great. It's been good. Okay, Sean Payton, he's had the bye before. I'm guaranteeing he's going to find ways to have his team prepared. That's not the question. Can Bo Nix be a guy that makes plays throughout the course of a game? We know he gets hot in the fourth quarter. We know that there are throws he makes that are great in the fourth quarter. But it's throughout a game. Because if you can't get any string of plays, drives that can consistently put you ahead of the game and have them play from behind, meaning the opponent playing from behind with that defense as your strength, and if you can't get going on offense, that's some concerns for me. And I think that the only way to beat Denver is you have an offensive line that can win up front, that controls the line of scrimmage running the ball on Denver. If you can run the ball on Denver really well, if you can make throws against a very good secondary, not tight window throws all the time, but open throws. And if you can get to Bo Nix, and if you stall their offense to where they can't get in any rhythm and they can't make plays, and you're out ahead, you got a great shot. Because I think as well as Denver's played in close games, they have not controlled the game yet for a while. Like, convincingly control the game. I know they controlled the Chargers yesterday. That was with Trey Lance. I don't want to take that game anything too crazy, okay? Kansas City with a third-string quarterback, I don't care about that, honestly. They didn't even really control that. They were down 1.5. Okay, but the way they're playing, they have not controlled the game from start to finish. having a lead, constantly making the opponent chase with that defense. Because to me, that's the way they have to win. But because their offense stalls so many times throughout the game and they can't produce points, they're getting 3 and outs, they're not really gaining yardage, and then they wait till the fourth quarter where all of a sudden it wakes up and then they make those plays, that's going to put you in trouble with the wrong opponent. And I look at the AFC, we saw Jacksonville beat them. Houston made them sweat in Houston on the road. The Chargers beat them in LA early in the season. Jacksonville just recently beat them. So, again, if you can play a clean game, if you can run the football with controlling the line, with your offensive line dominating their front, which that doesn't happen a lot. You're not going to dominate Denver's front, but you have to be able to control the game up front, get after Bo Nix, create turnovers, and you have to capitalize on a great defense, but you have to also make them play from behind. Meaning, it's hard to jump out front with this defense. But if you stall their drives early, you're able to kind of get mixes of touchdowns and field goals in a way where you have an opportunity where you can control the game and make them play from behind with a stalling offense. That's your best chance. Because I think if they're out and ahead offensively, Denver's going to beat you. They need to play ahead. Behind, they've had some games where it works. Sometimes, though, it has not worked well for them. And I think the closer a game gets with them, I think that's when you worry. Not just playing them, but as far as if Bo Nix is in a game where it's close, I mean, he has to make throws. That's where I worry with Denver. To me, I think when I look at Denver, offensively, they don't look really good from the eye test standpoint. Their defense looks really good, but it's hard to make plays against them. You have to play turnover free, cannot turn the ball over against them. Control up front, running the football effectively, getting after Bo Nix, and to me, it's going to come down to, can you make a big play if the opportunity is there? And it's hard to do against a really good defense, but I'm sure there's certain looks that they find, whoever will play them, that'll be like, okay, we might have to take a chance here. I saw Jacksonville hit some big plays. Chargers beat them in Denver. I'm sure if Buffalo were to meet them in their first game off the bye, I think Buffalo would find some big plays. I just think, in a way, Denver is in a very vulnerable situation where they don't look good by the eye test. It's not like Seattle where they look good and then there's one glaring question mark. I have more question marks with Denver. From what I'm seeing eye test-wise, from what I think that they cannot afford to have happen to them in the playoffs. And to me, where I think Sean Payton's looking at it is, we got to find a way to generate an opportunity to control the game start to finish. That's what Denver's going to have to do. And constantly play from ahead. But if they're playing from behind, they're not looking too good. That's where I think, to me, they look vulnerable. So that's the 1 seeds. Those are both of the teams that have the byes this weekend. Now we get to everybody else, where this is where I'm going to change it up a little bit. Now I go into the question of who has the most favorable path to making a deep playoff run. And you could say, well, this might hit about your picks on Friday night, Rich. It could. It absolutely could. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything that I'm keeping in secret. I don't have a pick yet, but I'm telling you based on right now with the bracket set, who has the easiest path. Well, I think the Patriots have an easy path. And I'm not saying that to be biased. I think they have an easy path. And people are like, really? Even if they get by the Chargers round 1? Well, here's who they could play. You could play a red-hot Jacksonville team where that would be the toughest opponent. Probably, if you want to go by one specific matchup, Houston's defense would obviously be tougher than Jacksonville as a whole, I would say. So that's why I would say, if you want to say Houston's defense or if you want to say Jacksonville based on how red hot they're playing, I wouldn't follow you, okay? But Buffalo could beat Jacksonville, okay? If that happens, they play the Texans. Now, I watched Houston the last 2 weeks. I even caught them in Indianapolis. I want to say it was the Sunday after Thanksgiving. They, offensively, they look okay. They don't look crazy good. I think there is a way to limit them. And again, I feel like we know what CJ Stroud is uncomfortable with as far as if you blitz Stroud, and I saw it against Kansas City too when I watched that game as well. So I've caught Houston a lot over the last quarter to 6 games of the season. All right. I think if you were to ask me, well, if they get the Chargers and then they get the Texans, is that a favorable path compared to what they would get? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think the fact that New England has 2 home playoff games, if they win against the Chargers on Sunday, that's a favorable path. You don't have to play Buffalo, most likely, until the AFC Championship game. You don't have to play Denver until the AFC Championship game. The other half of the bracket is more tougher. Okay? So I think if New England gets by the Chargers on Sunday, and you, let's say, play Houston or Pittsburgh, that's a good, favorable second-round matchup for you where, yes, the defense of Houston worries me, but offensively, that's where I think, okay, Milton Williams came back yesterday. Spillane should be back next week for New England. I think that Christian Gonzalez on Nico Collins is a great cancel out as far as best receiver, best corner. Then it's, all right, the other 10 guys, can they win against that Texans offensive line if that situation were to happen? And I feel like, again, New England's defense, I know they're struggling with the run. I'm sure Mike Vrabel's preaching that to his team this week, that the Chargers are going to try to run the ball on them. I also think they showed some tape yesterday where I was like, you can't come out flat. And he knows. He said in the post-game speech in the locker room. Okay? So I look at New England and I say, if in a perfect world you got the Chargers and you got the Steelers, that's the easiest path for you to get to the AFC Championship game. Now, if you get Houston's defense, that's obviously more tougher. But I'm going to say this. Would you rather play Houston's defense or would you rather play Buffalo, who already beat you in New England a few weeks ago? I kind of lean Houston in that regard. Okay? Now, Jacksonville, I look at them and I say, well, they're hot, but they haven't been in big, meaningful football like New England hasn't had, but Vrabel has been a coach that has made playoff runs before with the Titans. Okay? Liam Cohen, this is his very first season. We're about to find out what Jacksonville is playoff football-wise this Sunday when they play the Bills. And I think Trevor Lawrence, having been in one playoff run 3 years ago now, I don't know how that's going to go for him. He is playing very, very well these last 8-9 games of the season. He really has. And I think the inexperience plays a role with Jacksonville because it's been a while for them. It's also been a while for New England. I get it. But because Vrabel has made playoff runs before with the Titans, Josh McDaniels has been a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator. I think that bodes well a little bit more for New England than it does Jacksonville. Okay? Stephon Diggs has been in big games with Buffalo before. Milton Williams just won a Super Bowl last year with the Eagles. Carlton Davis won a Super Bowl with Tampa. So they have players more so on New England that have been in big games. Not as much as people want to say they do. But then again, Jacksonville doesn't have many experienced players that have been deep in the playoffs. So I look at the potential opponents. I think New England, if they get by the Chargers on Sunday, they got a really nice path. They do. Now, Jacksonville would likely play New England if they got by Buffalo. I would say they're among the tougher paths that they have to go through. Houston, I wouldn't say they're among the toughest ones. I'd say they're probably the second choice as far as easy path because there is technically a way they would play Denver. Now, I think they're one of the very few teams that, to me, could upset Denver out of the divisional round. They're one of the very few teams that could do it. Why? Because of that defense. Because early in the season, they played Denver very close. And they narrowly lost by Denver because CJ Stroud had a concussion in that game. And to me, it's going to come down to, can he make throws in big games? Where the Texans have always lost in the divisional round in the DeMeco Ryans, CJ Stroud era. That's where I think they could possibly beat Denver. The other two teams that Stroud met, the Ravens 2 years ago, they were great both sides of the ball. And the Ravens were clearly better. Kansas City, Houston was not as good as they are this year compared to last year. Last year, they were not that great. This year, they're way better. And they're riding much more momentum than last year. Last year, they were kind of that team that you were like, they could lose to the Chargers first round, and then they get by the Chargers, and then they play Kansas City, and you go, yep, they're well-rested. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, there was a mismatch written all over it. I don't feel that way with if they go play Denver. I feel like, to me, Houston's got maybe the second easiest path outside of New England, I think, because of who they could play and how I think they match up well. Now, I think they match up a little bit better with New England than Denver because New England's offensive line, Will Campbell's just coming back from injury, and that duo of Anderson and Danielle Hunter is a problem. And that defense, with the young quarterback, that bodes well for an advantage for them. So that's probably where I would say they have the second easiest path. I'm going to be honest with you. I think if there's one team I'm scared of as a New England fan that I don't want to verse in the playoffs, it's a tie between Houston and Buffalo. Houston, obviously, because of the defense. Buffalo, because we just saw them a few weeks ago, and Josh Allen came back down 21-0, and he had shades of that perfect game against us 4 years ago where he could not miss. After they scored on the first touchdown drive, down 21-0. And from there, he didn't miss a beat. And because Buffalo knows us so well within the division. Which brings me now to Jacksonville a little bit. Jacksonville's got a lot of confidence right now. They are feeling good. Trevor Lawrence is playing good. I think Parker Washington is one of the most underrated left-arm receivers right now over the last 10 weeks. He has been catching touchdown passes. They've been getting him in the offense more. Brian Thomas Jr., even though he's been quiet, somehow, some way, these other receivers, Jacoby Myers, who they got in the trade deadline, he's playing good. Brent Strange, the tight end, the running game with ETN, they are playing really good on offense. They can be a well-oiled machine. The thing with them is they're inexperienced. They don't have a lot of veteran guys that have been in a deep playoff run. And to me, that's where I think Jacksonville's weakness comes into play. And it could come into play when they play Buffalo on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And I think because Buffalo's been experienced, they know what it's like to be in the playoffs, and Jacksonville doesn't, that's where I think, in a way, they could struggle. Now, their defense has been playing good, but to me, they rely a lot on turnovers. What if their turnovers can't happen? Meaning, what if the defense can't create turnovers? What if they can't get to the quarterback? Jacksonville does struggle in that regard. We haven't seen it lately because they've been winning a lot of games. But Houston put up 37 points on them back in week 8, week 9. We saw the Rams card them up. We saw Denver put up 20 points. We even saw the Colts put up, I want to say, about a good 17 points. Granted, the Colts are not those teams. Chiefs even put up 31 before they really fell apart second half of the year. So I look at Jacksonville and I say, they're rolling now. I wonder what's going to happen if they can't create turnovers. If they can't play with a lead, then what happens? Are they used to playing from behind? Are they used to being in a game where they can't really create turnovers? They can't generate pressure. They can't get anything going, meaning their running game might stall or something like that. They haven't been in a close game in a while. And they, combined with the inexperience, I think Jacksonville, to me, they haven't been tested like when they're down and things aren't going right in quite a while. And that's the downside people could say with a winning streak when you're winning a lot of games. And it's not to take anything away from what they're doing. They're playing really good football. Sometimes, though, when things are going right, you kind of need that fourth quarter come from behind game where it's not looking too great. And I'm going to go look at Jacksonville for a minute as far as their schedule is concerned, because I think this needs to be noted. And again, I know that the Colts, it was back and forth a little bit. And I'm looking at right now, they dominated the Colts, dominated the Jets. Denver, they mostly played with a lead, okay? And I'm looking right now to see some other things. See, they haven't been in a close game since week 12. Week 12, and that was the Cardinals, okay? They dominated the Chargers. Week 10 was their last loss. The Raiders was close, okay? So it's been a while. And I think when I look at Jacksonville, that's the one Achilles heel I worry for them. Because Buffalo, they've been in close games. Some on the winning end, some on the losing end. And they're experienced. Jacksonville's not. That's where I worry for them. Because they've been so good, they haven't been in a game where things have gone not so good early. And then they figure out how to correct it mid-game, and that's when they pull away. We haven't seen it like that. They've beaten up on a couple not so good teams for the most part. Now, Denver was their best win during that stretch. The Chargers, they won in Jacksonville. Dominated them. But their last close ball game that they played in, you could say the Colts, but the real close game where it's tight was Arizona. That's concerning because you're going to have to be comfortable playing in a close game. And you're going to have to be ready to deal with situations. And it's been a while for them. But this team, the one positive they got going for them is they're playing really, really well on both sides of the ball. Can they continue to ride that wave? Going to be tough with Buffalo coming up. Now, to the toughest path in the playoff bracket for the AFC. I think, without a doubt, it's Buffalo. Without a doubt. And the reason I say Buffalo is because you have to play a red-hot Jacksonville team that could beat you. Because if you look at Jacksonville, they have balance. They can throw the ball well. They can run the ball pretty good. And their defense, they generate takeaways. But Buffalo, they are top in rushing offense. Jacksonville knows going into this game, we have to stop the run. It's about James Cook, and it's about Josh Allen. If Jacksonville stops the run and lets Josh Allen be Superman, chances are it's not going to go well, or he's just going to turn into the best quarterback in the league. It's going to be one of those two angles. And I think Buffalo's path, to me, most likely, is going to probably be at Jacksonville where they could win that game. Which means, again, if they were to beat Jacksonville, in theory, they could play Houston or Pittsburgh if the Chargers beat New England. Which then the path would change for them. Although I would say to you, Houston did beat them in Houston early in the season. So I would say to that, that's not really another easy game for them either. Now, if it's the Steelers, then it flips the whole thing, okay? If you play Denver, which is realistically where I think it could be their most likely second-round opponent, if they get by Jacksonville, I would say I don't know about that. Because now it's different, because last year they hosted Denver in the first round of the wild card. Now you got to go to Denver in the divisional round, where it's cold, it's altitude, cross country, red hot defense. I don't know if I like that for them. And Denver, to me, can limit their running game. And I think that Bo Nix, against that really good passing defense, yeah, he'll be tested. But Buffalo's got a physical way that they try to play. They try to win you with numbers up front with that Jim Johnson type blitz that they usually do. And then I look at like how they have Bosa. They have guys in the middle, Daquan Jones. Ed Oliver might be banged up. Milano's been an experienced linebacker. All right. To me, Buffalo, they're injury thin a little bit at times. I know they're getting guys back a little bit. I feel like, though, their receiving core has been a lot of at the brunt of some of their struggles offensively, and Denver has two good corners that, to me, can cancel them out. Well, then, if they take away, let's say Brandon Cook's the deep guy. All right, are you going to go to Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox? Are you going to go to Khalil Shakir? who's going to be the guy? Keon Coleman, who hasn't really been in the lineup much. He's been doghoused. Shavers. Who's the guy that Denver would be worried about? I don't think Denver's really worried about their receiving core. I think they're worried about their running game just like Jacksonville is this Sunday. So I think Buffalo, to me, playing Jacksonville in Denver, that's a tough path. And then you might end up with a scenario where it could be in Houston, second round, or in the AFC Championship game if they were to get that far, or in New England, which to me, in the cold, I know he knows New England, but to go on the road for 3 straight games is hard to do. Very few guys have been able to win that way. And I know people are going to be like, well, Tom Brady did it 5 years ago. Tampa Bay was a really stacked roster that got hot at the right time. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they won their last 2 regular season games. They won 4 straight in the playoffs. The Steelers, they got hot before they went on their wild card run, winning 4 straight to end the regular season and then winning 4 more, including the Super Bowl. Okay? So I look at a lot of these wild card teams that got rolling, that have won as a wild card. Buffalo hasn't rolled really yet. They have not. They've kind of just been waiting for that one game where they could dominate. And in Cleveland, they didn't dominate. Philly beat them up front physically. New England jumped out early, and then they kind of caught fire second half. So, to me, Buffalo going on the road, and let's remember this stat too. Josh Allen has not won a road playoff game yet in his career. He has not won a road playoff game yet in his career. Let's remember that for a second. So, I think that's important to note because now he's going to have to go win on the road with no Mahomes, no Burrow, and no Lamar Jackson. You have no excuse to not represent the AFC. Well, you're going to have to get used to going on the road, and he hasn't won a road playoff game yet. And I think this team has a very tough path to do it. And if they win through this tough path, they've earned it. The Chargers, obviously, in New England, in Denver, obviously seeding-wise, it's tough. But I just think, realistically, their offensive line is in shambles. I feel like that when I watch their offense, to me, if you can pressure Justin Herbert, and he's kind of banged up with his hand too, they're in trouble. Their defense is going to keep them in the game because Jesse Minter's a hell of a defensive coordinator. Jim Harbaugh has won meaningful games before. But we also know Justin Herbert has unraveled 2 bad postseason games. Really, the first game, it was more on Brandon Staley, but he didn't play well second half. Last year, he played awful. He did. And I think, to me, their receivers, they're having times where they struggle getting open. And drops, Gadsden against the Texans. And combining with the offensive line woes, they're having trouble at times stopping the run. To me, they're having some glaring issues to where I don't know if they can get it fixed. So I look at the Chargers and say seeding, they're the toughest matchup. They have the toughest path. I don't know if they're getting by both New England and Denver. I don't know. Especially even if they do get to Denver, I don't see it. Their offensive line problems, their run defense is struggling a little bit. And there are ways you can get big plays on the Chargers. There are ways you can do it. I saw the Texans do it on the first 2 drives of the game. It's going to be tough because their pass defense is really good. But I just feel like, to me, aging defense, they can't stop the run really well. Offensive line's in shambles. Receivers having trouble getting open. Herbert's banged up. All the signs are saying they're not trending in the right direction in the playoffs. They're a little leaky, all right? Now, let me go to the NFC. To me, the easiest path, this might sound crazy. I think it's the Bears. And the reason I say the Bears is Green Bay is another team limping into the playoffs. Parsons is out, and they haven't looked like a very good team over the last 3 weeks. 4. They lost in Denver, lost in Chicago, close game, but it was Malik Willis, and Malik Willis did pretty good. Their defense just unraveled in the final let's say 5 minutes of that game plus overtime. Ravens, they got ran through the doors off. And Jordan Love's coming back off concussion. They have not looked good. Now, Matt LaFleur, every year he's been the guy post Aaron Rodgers. They've been the 7th seed. 23, they beat Dallas in Dallas. 2024, they lost in Philadelphia. Now you got to go to Chicago. The good news for them is they know the Bears. The bad news is they've lost 4 games in a row. They are trending wrong direction. They're injury-prone, banged up. Their defense has looked very, very weak the last 4 games. Look at what Denver did. Look at what the Ravens did. Look at what Chicago did in the final 5 minutes plus overtime. And Minnesota, I know they played mostly backups. Minnesota did all right against them. I'm looking at Green Bay and I'm going, they're not looking too great. And Jordan Love coming off concussion. And Dennis Allen is one of the top coordinators on defense. And I know this defense is young. But they're looking at Green Bay going, they're a wounded animal. They're a wounded animal. They're not looking that good. And I think Chicago, to me, knowing Ben Johnson is going to probably get a look at teams that he's seen in the playoffs. Well, that he's seen not only in the playoffs, but that he's seen recently to help his team prepare for in the playoffs. And Chicago's been battle-tested now. Let's give Chicago their due. They beat Green Bay at home in overtime. The Niners, it was down to the last play 2 weeks ago, and they played them great. They won in Philly early in the season. Well, let's say, I want to say now we're on week 19, 7 weeks now, okay? So they've won in Philly, they played the Niners tough, and they beat Green Bay at home, okay? Chicago has beaten good teams, and they've played them tough. So that bodes an advantage. And I look at Chicago, I think, well, to me now, how long can they play as well as they've played? And is there going to be a matchup where Caleb Williams gets, not exposed, but has trouble? And I think Chicago, they run the ball really well with their 1-2 puncher running back. Swift, Monangai, they got the tight ends involved. Receivers, they don't get them involved as much. I know Moore has been a guy that's been banged up a little bit. Odunze was banged up a little bit. Caleb Williams now in playoff football. The question is, how long can this offense stay rolling? And if they play a team like Seattle, if they play a team like Philadelphia, if they play the Rams with a really good Chris Shula defense at times, are they going to struggle? How does Caleb Williams handle elite defenses? That was his kryptonite in college. I think that's going to be his kryptonite now because Vic Fangio, really good defensive coordinator. I'm sure he's looking at their tape, possibly if they play the Bears and get by the Niners, they're looking at, we got to stop the run and make Caleb Williams beat us. And I think Caleb Williams, to me, he's been getting a little bit better making throws that he's had to make. I give him the Green Bay game, and they did not look good against the Lions, which, again, you don't want to be looking not so good. But I think what's boding well for them is the fact they beat Philly and they beat Green Bay in the playoffs, and they played really good with the Niners. They just couldn't finish that one play in the game that they needed to make. I think that bodes an advantage for them. I think who Chicago likely could play, I think Green Bay, if they get by Green Bay, the likelihood they can play is the Eagles, the Panthers, and the Rams. Now you're like, well, 2 of those 3 have an elite defense. How would they bode well for them? Well, Sean McVay's Rams, they don't play well in cold weather. Just look at the Philadelphia game last year. I know they played them tooth and nail. I know they played them tough. I understand that. Sean McVay's teams do not bode well in cold temperatures, meaning they're not used to it. They're a warm weather dome team. They're not used to cold weather teams. Go back in 2018 when, at that time, Vic Fangio was the defense coordinator for the Bears, and Sean McVay's offense ran into cold weather, and they struggled. It's been that way since that year. They're not good in cold weather. They're a warm weather team. The Bears, they're used to cold weather. They got the defense, and they would have home field in that game. Stafford playing 2 great games on the road, I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's hard to do. It's very hard to do. And the Panthers, obviously that would be the easiest matchup of the 3 if they got by the Rams. And if they do play the Panthers, I would think Chicago would, I don't want to say easily get by them, but I think they would get by them. I do. because the Panthers are like hot and cold. You can't figure out which week they're going to play good. The Eagles, to me, they beat the Eagles before. They won in Philadelphia. Now it would be in Chicago if that happened. And I think that because you know how to beat a team the first time, now it's, okay, what have you learned since that win? What have you gotten since that game? And how do you improve it? And I think Chicago has made Caleb Williams more comfortable getting some good passing calls in there to where he's been throwing the ball really, really well, especially down the field. And he's handled pressure pretty good. I think, to me, with the way the Eagles' offense isn't looking, I look at the Eagles and say, well, the Bears' defense, Dennis Allen, they're going to get pressure on Jalen Hurts. They're going to stop Saquon Barkley in the running game. They're going to take A.J. Brown completely out of the game. Devontae Smith, they might double. And then they're going to say, okay, what are you going to do, Eagles? Can you run the ball? Can you throw the ball on us? They don't know what they are on offense identity-wise. So, to me, the Eagles going on the road in Nick Sirianni's tenure, they have not won a road playoff game. Can they go win a road playoff game under Nick Sirianni, especially with the current state of this team and what they look like offensively? I don't know. Now, Caleb Williams against an elite defense, that's going to be a chess match between Fangio and Ben Johnson. That's going to be great. But they ran the ball well. Can they run the ball on the Eagles as well as they do? I don't know if they can. And that's where I think the Eagles would be the tougher of the three matchups. I wouldn't be mad if someone said the Rams. But I think the Bears, Eagles offense struggles. Carolina's inexperienced. The Rams are not good with cold weather. I think the Bears have an easy path to get to the championship game among the NFC teams in the wild card field, okay? And among the teams that are playing this weekend coming up, I think the Bears have the easiest path because I look at the Eagles too, the Niners. That's where I'm going to start saying this is where it gets tough for them. I do. This is where I think it gets tough for them. I think they have the toughest path in the NFC. Because I look at their offense, they don't know what they are. A.J. Brown's complaining when he doesn't get the ball. Saquon Barkley's trying to talk to Jalen Hurts. He's kind of shooing him off. There's drama written all over. And to me, signs of things are falling apart are going to happen at some point. And I think the Niners, what's interesting about this game is strength against strength is going to be fun to watch. Their offense against the Eagles' defense, Fangio against Kyle Shanahan should be awesome. Now, weakness against weakness. The Niners defense, Eagles offense. Something's got to give. I mean, especially the Niners have a lot of fueled up, I don't know if I want to say, fueled up hate from losing a couple of years back in the NFC Championship game when Brock Purdy got hurt. There's a little more fuel to the fire that the Eagles kind of poured it on him with a fourth-string quarterback. I think they're going to be highly motivated to go win in Philly. And I think that, if the Eagles get by the Niners, then they would have to play the Bears, which that would be tough. And then just say the Bears get upset by the Packers. Then it's the Rams or the Panthers. Well, the Rams, people forget, they were up 26-7 on them in week 3. And then they just imploded. And then their offense all of a sudden looked like they had something going. Do you expect the way that they won week 3 is going to happen the exact same way? No. But do I expect the Rams defense to completely implode? No, I do not. Not in that way again. So I look at the Eagles where you could play the Bears, you could play the Rams. Obviously, if you played Carolina, then that's easy. I don't think you will. But then again, I don't like the Eagles' path. All right? Now, the Niners, I think, are right there because if you beat the Eagles, you would have to go to Seattle where you just lost to them at home. And Seattle, with that noise, their defense playing well, you couldn't run the ball on them Saturday night? Nope. You're in trouble there. And again, their defense, they did a decent job Saturday night. They held them to 13 points. Their offense just couldn't get anything going. I think that's the bad matchup for the Niners that they don't want. And I feel like between playing the Eagles in Philly, traveling then all the way back across the country to play Seattle, no. That is a very, very tough postseason path. And if they beat both of those teams, then they're going to be a team to beat. And again, Fred Warner coming back after that, most likely if that happens, I wouldn't bank on it. Now, again, Kyle Shanahan, He's won on the road in the playoffs before, so I don't want to doubt him. But this is a very, very tough path, especially traveling all the way from West Coast to East Coast, then traveling back from East Coast to West Coast. No. Way, way too tough. I mean, I would argue maybe it's tougher than Philly. I would argue it's way tougher than Philly. But because you're playing the Eagles, winner of that game is a very, very tough path, depending on matchups. And I know people are going to say, well, that's going to be interesting as far as like matchups go. Yes. But I also am looking at just travel. I'm looking at how both teams are playing, previous matchups. I'm factoring in so much stuff, okay? The easiest path in the NFC, outside of the Bears, I'm not even, I mean, the Rams would be up in among the toughest ones because they could play Seattle. But if they play the Bears are not really experienced. They are, but they're not used to cold weather. So they're on like the middle. I don't know if I would say there's an easy team path-wise other than the Bears, maybe. That's it. I mean, the Rams have experience. Stafford's won a Super Bowl. I know Sean McVay's a hell of a coach, and I say all the time, I'm not betting against him. This is, the way this could work out is so tough. I know I'm throwing out hypothetical matchups all over the place. I get it. I'm explaining to you guys who has the toughest matchups in each conference, who has the easiest path. You guys get what I'm trying to say. So that's where I'm at there. Carolina, I think, obviously seeding-wise, they wouldn't have a chance. They would not have a chance if they played Seattle or Chicago or Philly. Nope, they would not. That's why I think with them and the Steelers, it's like a prayer and chance. They get a win and then go from there. I don't think either team's going to do anything too crazy. So, in a nutshell, to me, easiest path, New England, Chicago, to me, the two seeds have a very favorable path if things work out right. I would even argue that Houston has a chance. I think that the Rams could be in the middle, so I think Houston's has a possible easy path. The toughest path to me easily is the Niners, the Eagles, the Rams I'll throw in there. They're kind of like hit and miss. And I think it's Buffalo. That's where I'm at with the bracket because I think, to me, some teams have some brutal paths to get to the championship game, the Super Bowl. Some have a nice path if things work their way. That's why I like to outline both causes as to who's got an easy path, who doesn't have a favorable path. All right, let's get to the college football playoff semifinal picks because I want to get to the picks and I've got a lot I want to cover for both of these matchups. All right, we're going to start with Thursday's game, where number 10 Miami meets number 6 Ole Miss, where Miami is 3-point favorites in the Fiesta Bowl. So that's up in Glendale, Arizona. And I apologize last week. I got it wrong. Oregon, Texas Tech was in the Orange Bowl. I am wrong. I will admit when I made a mistake. Miami, Ole Miss is in the Fiesta Bowl. That is in Arizona. So it's warm weather, dome. They have the retractable roof. Over and unders at 51.5 points. Can Miami score with Ole Miss if it does get to a high-scoring game? I don't know if Miami can. And I look at the strength and strength. Miami's defense against Ole Miss offense. To me, I'm looking at, can Miami pressure Chambliss up front with those pass rushers and those guys in the secondary that, to me, balled out against Ohio State? To me, Miami, I would give the edge to over Ole Miss because Miami beat Ohio State, who was a really good defensive team. And to me, Mark Fletcher Jr. is the key. If Ole Miss can't stop him and Malachi Toney, Miami's going to win. Because the only hope Ole Miss would have is to win in a shootout. And I think Miami, the way they're equipped, with the pass rushers, Bain, Mesidor, Ahmad Moten in the middle, you got Jacoby Thomas, you've got Keon Scott. I think this Miami team is better than we thought going into the playoffs, better than I thought. And I'm looking at Miami, and I think Miami can beat Ole Miss. So the only way Ole Miss wins is if it's a shootout and they stretch Miami's defense to where they constantly hit big plays. and they're able to keep them up-tempo, and they tire them out. I don't know if Ole Miss is going to be able to do that throughout the course of the game. And if Miami beat Ohio State, who was my pick to win it all in the college football playoff prediction bracket that I did, I had Ohio State winning. So Miami beat Ohio State. I'm going with Miami to beat Ole Miss. I think Miami has the pass rush, the defensive line to completely get after Trinidad Chambliss. I think offensive line-wise, they can control the line of scrimmage. I think Mark Fletcher Jr. is the key. If they feed him the rock, give Malachi Tony the ball, Carson Beck's got to play clean. I think Miami can win the game, and I got Miami going to the national championship. Give me Miami to win. And this is, 51.5? So I'm going to go with Miami. I think they're going to score with Ole Miss a little bit. I'm going to go Miami 27-23 on Ole Miss. I've got it right under that total. I'm going 27-23. Miami beats Ole Miss. Right at that total, but a little lower. I actually like the over in Miami Ole Miss as far as guarantees go, so I would take the over. All right. Friday, January 9th. Number 5 Oregon meets number 1 Indiana, where this game will be played in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Atlanta, where Indiana is 3.5-point favorites. The over and under is at 46.5 points. All right, so this is a rematch from when these two teams met back in early November. I want to say it was early November or late October. If you remember, Oregon was once upon a time 7.5-point favorites against Indiana when Indiana came off that dominating win against Illinois, and they narrowly beat Iowa on the road. And they had that 2 weeks to prepare to get ready for Oregon, and Oregon was number 2 in the country. And they were home, and it was close. Mendoza had a pick 6, and then all of a sudden Indiana's offense just clicked, and Dante Moore threw 2 bad interceptions, and that was what that game was. Now it's flipped. Indiana's now the favorite. They're number 1. Oregon's now number 5, but they're kind of building some momentum, beating a very good Texas Tech defense, which I was impressed with, and kind of taking JMU late in the second half. So this is where, to me, the one knock on Oregon is going to be put to test. Can they win a game when a team is more physical than they are? And history says no. Indiana just dismantled, beat down on Alabama, which was great. Now, Oregon played them tough. I don't want to touch a team in this spread-wise. Like I said, these matchups are all tough. I'm not going to touch team-wise spreads yet. I don't even know if I want to touch the total, but I might take a stab at the over, 46.5. So 47, roughly. To me, which of these two guys makes the mistake? Dante Moore made it late in the game last time. Can Oregon's front, can their defense get Mendoza off schedule? Can they get him uncomfortable? Can they get him to make mistakes? If Oregon's defense can do that, because they did have a pick 6 on Mendoza, I think that's the one chance Oregon's got. I don't know if you can run the ball straight down their throat on Indiana. Indiana's got some dudes that have jumped off the screen lately. Aiden Fisher, they've got Hemby at linebacker. They have a lot of guys. D'Angelo Ponds in the secondary, Lewis Moore at safety. They've got a lot of guys, but I love a lot of what I saw at Oregon the last 2 weeks. And again, they got some dudes on defense. Brandon Finney in the secondary. Dylan Thieneman at safety, okay? Uyagagule in the middle, okay? They got a lot of guys that, to me, can make plays on their defense. But can they create turnovers? Can they get Mendoza pressured? Can they get him off schedule? Can they get Indiana into second and third and long? I don't know if they can. Because Oregon's recipe is they want to win with speed and finesse. Indiana has proven they can win with speed, they can win with physicality. And I think Indiana's got the story. They got the wave. Signetti cooking in the portal. I mean, did you see some of the pickups he's made? Oh, my God. I mean, Nick Marsh from Michigan State. They got their quarterback Josh Hoover from TCU for next season. Oh my God. I mean, I was clicking Barstool Tate on Twitter. Now, I didn't know it was sarcastic, but it was fun. I like Indiana to win. I do again. I think it's hard to beat a team twice. I just think Oregon, looking at what I have seen, I thought Texas Tech would beat them last time because I thought they had the defense to give Dante more problems. They answered it really well. I think Indiana, because they know Oregon from tape and what they did well, I don't know realistically how anyone slows this Indiana team down. They're playing really, really good right now, and I think they're really riding the wave. They look like a team right now that no one would have thought would have been the best team in the country going into the season. But since that Oregon game, everything has really, really flipped for them well. And they got the story, they got the narrative going, they got everything going. I can't see Oregon pulling an upset, but I'm going to say Indiana. Because I just think Oregon's finesse style, the way they have to beat a team, comes back to bite them. And I don't think Oregon wins when a team's more physical than they are. And I think Indiana's the team. Give me Indiana, and I think this is going to be this might be a game where I want to pick the over. I'm going to say this is tough because Indiana's offense is better than Texas Tech's. 28-24. 28-24. Indiana beats Oregon. I think that Indiana's going to put points up. I think Oregon's going to put points up a little bit too. 28-24. I'm taking Indiana. So not only do they cover spread-wise, I think the over hits as well. So I got Indiana meeting Miami in the championship, which this would be crazy. You know what I also thought was crazy? 3 of the 4 teams left have not won a national title. The lone team, Miami back in 0-1. So should be fun. So those are my college football playoff semifinal predictions and winners. So here's what I'm going to do for the episode late this week. I might do 2 separate episodes. I might do one strictly breaking down the national championship game, which in theory, I don't want to keep you all waiting for those of you that really, really want the playoff predictions. So what I might do is I might have the NFL playoff predictions out for Friday morning, maybe Saturday, depending on how ambitious I really want to do both NFL and college together. So I'm thinking of doing this. I'm going to do my wild card weekend predictions, my NFL playoff bracket, first on Friday. And then I'm going to go for a small reaction to the college football playoff semifinal matchups following Indiana, Oregon, give my thoughts on both of those games and the national championship preview. So we're going to have 2 episodes. We're going to have one be out by about Friday morning, Thursday at the earliest for the NFL playoff bracket predictions, everything. It's just going to be NFL. And then there's going to be another lounge time later Friday where it's going to be post Indiana, Oregon, post Ole Miss, Miami, and it's going to be previewing the national championship. That way I break up the topics and go from there. So 2 episodes will be on Friday. One might be Thursday, depending on how ambitious I am about getting the picks out. I'm in the process of making my NFL playoff bracket and my predictions. I'm looking to see if I can find some upsets. That's what I'm thinking. And then we are going to go next week because there's a super wild card weekend game. I might wait till Monday after the game. Might. Unless I get one of my friends to come on the show Monday to talk about most of the games. That's debatable as well. So, brief recap. We're going to have 2 episodes in the back half of the week. One strictly on the NFL playoff bracket. One following the college football playoff semifinal with Indiana and Oregon, breaking down the 2 semifinal matchups and the national championship preview. And then next week, we're looking at Monday night, most likely after the Texans-Steelers matchup, but I also could make the decision to go in the morning. So definitely one will be out on Monday. The time is to be determined. And then we're going to go back to the Friday and Monday after, because that's when I could finally have all the matchups set and everything and go from there. But that's kind of the schedule coming up for this week on Loungetime. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We are on the road to 50 plus subscribers on YouTube. We cannot do it without you guys. Spread the word. We want to grow Loungetime. If you need a football podcast for 2026, this is the place to be. You don't want to miss all the content we have coming up for the playoffs, especially the playoff bracket for the NFL prediction, my picks and analysis, all saved up for the back half of the week. You don't want to miss out. Plus, you can also follow me on Rumble. We're looking to build a community over there. We only got a couple followers. I want to build that Rumble fan base up a little bit, build a new community into Loungetime. We got to build the growing and the following on Rumble. Give me a follow on Rumble. We're going to have episodes that will also go live the same days it goes on YouTube. You can also follow me at Loungetime Pod on X. You can tweet me a question. I will give you an answer. It could be college hoops, which I got to do my new poll, but I want to wait till after the playoffs start for the NFL to do that. Although I'm going to try to work it in. You can tweet me about a football question, college football even. I'll answer it. All you got to do is just at me. And I promise I'll give you a shout out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Loungetime. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I will see you guys on Friday. Doubleheader. College football, NFL, but 2 different episodes. You don't want to miss out. Until then, enjoy the rest of this week. And I'll see you guys on Friday where we break down the NFL playoff bracket winners, who my pick to win the Super Bowl is, potential upsets, and the college football playoff semifinal recaps, and who my pick is to win the national championship. Until then, have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you guys on Friday.